Shabbat, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Good morning, everyone. Shabbat Shalom. We invite you to find your seats. We invite you to make your way in. We are beginning now. We invite you to find a seat, everyone in the back. We are starting our service. Please take a seat. We are beginning. We are here.
If you are a friend of either Noah, if you're a friend of either Noah, you're to sit here in the front. We've got a lot of empty seats in the front. Both sides are for both Noahs. So if you are a friend of either Noah, you're not supposed to be in the pews. You're supposed to come forward and sit right up here. Doesn't matter which Noah, both Noahs, both sides.
So Noah Brent, get all of your friends to sit over here. All of your friends sit right here so they can be right up with you. And everyone, please find a seat. Welcome, welcome. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Let's try singing together. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Again, we are beginning our service. Everyone should please find a seat. Everyone should find a seat. Everyone should find a seat. And in your pews, you should also find a prayer book in your vicinity. The prayer book says Mishkan Tefillah. If you have a book that says Mishkan Tefillah, please hold it up over your head so everyone can look around and see what it looks like. Make sure it says Mishkan Tefillah. It may say something else, which is also very good, and you'll need it later, but make sure the book says Mishkan Tefillah. Hold it up high over your head. Yep, you all have the right book. Hold it way high. That's the one. Very good. You can put it down now. If you're looking and you don't see a book near you that says Mishkan Tefillah, please raise your empty hand. If you need a prayer book, please raise your empty hand so one of our wonderful greeters can come bring you a prayer book. If you need a prayer book, please raise your hand high so that our greeters in the back can see it. We can make sure everyone has a prayer book. And as we get ourselves situated, we continue to sing together. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Can we sing these words together? Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. These books you have in your hands, they open from right to left because they're mostly in Hebrew. And we open them now to page 192. The book that says Mishkan Tefillah opens from right to left. Look in the lower right-hand corner for page 192. If you see two numbers in the lower right, look at the one in brackets. Look at the one in brackets, page 192, and in the middle of the page, you'll see the words Matovu. 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 Again, page 192 in the brackets. Matovu. Matovu. Matovu alecha Yaakov Ishkenotecha Yisrael Matovu. Again, 192 in the lower right. Matovu. 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 לבוא ביתך, אשתחווה אל היכל קודשך, ביראתך. מה טובו together. מה טובו, מה טובו. We're all singing it. Give it a try. Here we go. מה טובו, מה טובו. 4 more times. Everyone singing these words. מה טובו. Sing it louder. מה טובו, מה טובו, מה טובו. The middle of 192. אני תפילתי לך, אדוני תרצו. אלוהים ברוב חסדך, ענני באמת אישך. מה טובו, מה טובו, מה טובו, מה טובו.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Okay, let's try that again. Shabbat Shalom. That's what I'm talking about. So we are so glad to be with you here this morning in our sanctuary. The song we just sang was the traditional song that you sing when we enter our sanctuary for the first time, well, when we walk in. And because we're grateful to be able to be in this space, and we continue to be grateful to be able to be in presence with others in this space, to be able to share Shabbat together in person. As you seem to totally have picked up, our masking policy is optional. You can wear one, not wear one. If you ever feel like you need more space, there's lots of empty space, the balcony in the back. We want to make sure you feel comfortable at all times. And we're so glad you're here. Now, a few things to know. We're going to be following together in this book, this Siddur. It's called Mishkan Tefillah, and we're going to be praying almost entirely in the Hebrew. And if you're someone who has never prayed in Hebrew before, maybe you've never read Hebrew before, maybe you don't know how to read Hebrew, you're probably in the majority in this room. It's totally okay, because right next to the Hebrew, you'll find the transliteration. Every single syllable of every word is right there next to the Hebrew, so you can follow along with us with everything. And the reason this is important, the reason I want you to actually know how to use this book, is because it might seem like you're an audience and like we're performers. It might seem like you're spectators and you're observing something happening up here. But that's actually not what's going on this morning. And I want you to know that. What's going on this morning is that you are part of making something happen. We make Shabbat happen in Jewish community. It means you actually have to do something to make it happen. Now, Shabbat is this incredible wisdom that we've inherited from our ancestors. And it goes like this. Everybody needs a day off. Everybody needs a day off. I wonder if anybody had any stress this week. Anybody? Anybody find the news stressful this week? Just wondering. Anybody feel that stress of the news? So, okay, you know stress. And maybe you guys, have you had tests or papers or homework? Anybody? Yeah? Okay, so Shabbat is a day off from schoolwork, from tests, from homework, from buzzing and beeping devices. Does anyone have a buzzing or beeping or even on silent device that is constantly telling you that there's something you need to respond to that you haven't done, somebody trying to get your attention, some amazing new post on social media that you got to check out or else you're missing out? You don't need that thing right now. I'd like to ask you to turn it off just for a while we're here. Just turn it off. It doesn't need to buzz. It doesn't need to beep. We definitely don't want to hear it ring. Turn it off. Turn it off. Because Shabbat is the Jewish people's vacation. It's a weekly vacation from all those stressful things. You can put the news cycle down for now. That's relevant to, I think, a lot of you on this side of the room. You can just take a break from all the pressures of the world that are coming at you. You can take a break. And you can breathe differently. You You can unwind a little bit. You can notice your body. What does it feel like? You can notice that you're breathing this morning. Maybe breathe more deeply. Maybe feel, wait a minute, I'm actually alive today. And I'm usually going so fast, I don't even notice that I'm alive. But I'm alive right now. And life is awesome. And it's happening right now. And it's not forever. Wow. If I pay attention differently, maybe I'll notice that there are miracles filling my days that I just usually don't see. Maybe I'll notice that it is awesome to be alive. That's what we're doing this morning. That's Shabbat. You are more than your job. You are more than your work. You are possessed of an inherent dignity, inalienable, and you are alive. That's Shabbat. So we use these words to get in touch with that, to shift our mindset from the week where we are producers and we are responders and we are fixers and we are makers, and we take a day where we get to just be. That's the invitation. So use the words, Hebrew or English. Use the music. Use the silences. Close your eyes. Follow along. Don't follow along. Use this time to do something real for you, because you need a vacation. We all need a vacation. And that's what this is about. Now, most of our prayers are going to talk about God. If you're somebody who loves to pray to God, you're in your sweet spot. I don't have to say anything to you. If you're somebody who's like, not sure how I relate to that. Okay. So you can translate it. You don't have to fight with it, argue with it, struggle with it. You can translate it. The point of it is that you are very small, and so am I, and it is vast. The it, you could make that the cosmos. You could make that life. You could make that time. You could make that the ecosystem. You could make that love. You could make that anything that reminds you of awe and wonder. That's the point. Don't fight with it. Use this time. Remember who you really are. That's what we're doing together. So we're going to turn next to page 194. Our opening prayer is just to remind us that we're grateful to be alive and grateful for our bodies that are miracles. We're going to sing actually mostly words that are not on this page, but the last line of Hebrew we will sing. And then we'll go from there, I'll look at the page number later, to the morning blessings. They're called the miracles of every day. They're simple, ordinary things, but they're actually miracles if we pay attention. And then we'll go from there to Psalm 150. I'm going to give you more instructions when we get there. It's going to involve leaving your seats. I'll tell you more about that when we get there. Right now we're on 194 in gratitude for being alive.
I thank you for my life, body and soul. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. I'm perfect the way I am, and a little broken too. I will live each day as a gift I give to you. Oh. Can you go with me? I thank you. I thank you for my life, body and soul. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. Help me realize I am beautiful and whole. I'm perfect the way I am and a little broken too. I'm perfect the way I am and a little broken too. I will live each day as a gift I give to you. I will live each day as a gift I give to you. Oh, 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 a little higher. Oh, and higher still. Baruch atah Adonai. Rofei kol basar u'mavli la'asot. Again. Baruch atah Adonai. Rofei kol basar u'mavli la'asot. Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan l'sechli bina להפריד בין יום ובין לילה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, פוקח עברי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, מתיר אסורי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, זוקף כפופים. 200. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who stretches the earth over the waters. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who strengthens our steps. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who clothes the naked. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, who gives strength to the weary. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, Hamavir Sheina Me'enai, Utnumame Afapai. 202. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who made me in the image of God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, who has made me free. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'asani Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, Hosed Yisrael b'gvura. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, Hotel Yisrael b'tifara. As we turn to page 218, we're going to invite you to do something pretty extraordinary. Isn't that right?
That's right. We're going to ask you to leave your seats. We're going to ask you to all come up here. Everybody, every person, to come up here, to come to my right, to come to my left, to come behind us. If you are in these seats here up front, you stay where you are. You just stand up. Everybody in the pews, come forward. Come out of the middle aisle. Get as close as you can here. You can come up on the bima if you're a CBE person. You're welcome on the bima. Yeah. CBE people, Jack. Yeah. And everybody come forward. Everybody come forward. We're going to come close together on page 218. All you need to know really for this song is hallelujah.
Keep moving forward. Nudge if you have to. Keep moving up. Keep moving up. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Keep moving forward. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Come on, Brent. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Come out of the middle aisle. Come out of the middle aisle. Keep going forward.
Hallelujah. 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 You can do better than the rabbi. Come on. Hallelujah. 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 Beteka shofar. Hallelujah. Beteka shofar. Hallelujah. Benevel betino. Hallelujah. Betofu mako. Hallelujah. Everyone now. Hallelujah. Can't hear you. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Make the walls resound even more. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Wake them up on 8th Avenue. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Betzilzele Shama, Hallelu, Betzilzele Shama, Hallelu, Betzilzele Trua, Kol HaNeshama Tehallel Hallelu, Hallelu. Everyone sing at the count of 3, Hallelu, 1, 2, 3. Oh, there you are, come on. You sound glorious, add some more. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Whisper, whisper, hallelujah, hallelujah. Snap your fingers. Hallelujah. 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 Oh yeah, let's do the rainstorm thing. That's good. That's good. Wow, you should stay here for a while, right?
Yes, everybody stay up here. Okay, let's take that energy that we just built up. That was good. Y'all did great. Let's take that energy and make this the friendliest place you've ever been to in Brooklyn. Turn to somebody near you, introduce yourself, wish them a Shabbat Shalom. All right, thank you for being so friendly.
Oh, stay here. Stay here. We're not done yet. We're not done
turning
yet.
to our seats. Stay here. Thank you for your friendliness. Shh. Come on back. Something really special is about to happen. So Noah and Noah. Thank you for your friendliness. Okay, so Noah and Noah. You know, we have 2 Noahs this morning. You're going to be very familiar with that soon. Noah Rosen and Noah Brent are each going to receive a talit now. Let me tell you what a talit is. First, Noah Rosen is going to receive it from her aunt, Lori Tompkins, and Noah Brent is going to receive it from his grandparents, Nancy and Lou Fishman. As they're getting them and coming forward, I'm going to explain what this is. So this is a talit. It's also called a talis. And it is a prayer shawl that Jews wear when we pray, particularly in the mornings. It can have different colors, patterns, fabrics, but they all have this on 4 corners. And these are called tzitzit. Exactly. These are called tzitzit. And they are fringes that are wrapped and knotted in a formula that is meant to remind us of what it is to live as a Jew. And so today, as Noah and Noah become B'nai Mitzvah, there is a temptation to think like, wow, this is the culmination. They've worked so hard. It's been so long. They've made so much effort. And here they are celebrating this conclusion of something. And it's a conclusion of a certain period of study, but it's actually a beginning. It's the beginning of the rest of their lives living as Jewish people. And when they place the talitot on their shoulders, that's what they're saying. They're going to come close. They're going to say the blessing. And then they're going to put the talitot on their shoulders. First, why don't you put it in their hand so they can hold it and say the blessing from looking at the Atara.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit.
Amen.
Amen. Now we're going to stay where we are, and we're all going to face toward Jerusalem, and we're going to turn to Chatzi Kaddish on page 224. And if you don't have your book, don't worry, you can just follow along.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמד יפרח חירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון וביומכון וחיי לכל בית ישראל, בהגלה ובזמן קריב, ואמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעלם ולעלמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי דקודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. 226 ברכו את אדוני המבורך Page 228. If you're not becoming B'nai Mitzvah, you may be seated. Page 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzei or uborei choshech oseh shalom uborei et hakol. Again, 228. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzei or uborei choshech oseh shalom uborei et hakol. One more time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam yotzei or uborei choshech oseh shalom uborei et hakol.
Please join me in the English in the middle of page 229. You are praised, who rolls out the rough, raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light. And from nothing at all, we could perceive in a world that has turned old, a shimmering new creation right before our eyes, made this moment just for us. How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks upon the sea? You are praised, who forms from the clay that cloaks our lives, the delicate vessels which contain our light. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot. Come on page 230 to Ahava Rabbah. This is our prayer that describes learning as a gift of love. The understanding here is that it could be otherwise. We could be limited in our ability to learn. We could just be stuck in old understanding. We could fail to have the ability to evolve and grow and deepen in knowledge or wisdom or insight. But that's not how it is. We actually have a limitless ability to learn. And when we see in our society ways that we are stuck, where we are, we have the ability to hope forever that people can always understand differently, can always change their mind, can always think more deeply, can always inquire, can always develop and grow, can always become more learned, can always become more wise. And that is a gift of love, because it means that redemption's always possible for us, even when it seems impossible. And so here, we sing Ahava Rabbah as on a day when we give Torah, the Jewish people's vessel for learning, to a new generation. Grateful for their journey of learning and for ours, which continues throughout our lives.
Top of 230. Adonai Eloheinu שבטחו בך, שבטחו בך, אבו אמותינו. תלמדם חוקי חיים, כן תכוננו, ותלמדנו המרחם, רחם עלינו, רחם עלינו. ותן בליבנו להבינו, להשכיל, לשמוע, ללמוד וללמד, לשמור ולעשות, ולקיים את כל דברי תלמוד תורתך ואהבה, והערננו בתורתך, ודבק ליבנו במצוותיך, ויפה לבבנו באהבה וליראה את שמך, ולא נבוש ולא ניכלם ולא ניכשל לעולם ועד, כי בשם קודשך הגדול והנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך. Near the bottom of 230. והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו. כי אל פועל ישועות אתה, ובנו בחרת, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול. סלע באמת להודות לך ולייחדך באהבה. ברוך אתה אדוני הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. 232. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. 234. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בהם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי. הייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת. 240. מי כמוך האלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדר בקודש, תורת תהילות, עושה פלט שירת השם. ביחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. We rise, זכות ישראל קומה בעזרת ישראל ופתי נאומך יהודה בישראל. גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו קדוש ישראל. ברוך אתה אדוני קהל ישראל.
On page 242, we come to the tefillah, the amidah, the central standing prayer or set of prayers in our service. And the first of the major prayers that we're going to pray, we remind ourselves that while we think we're so important, we think that this moment in time, it seems like all there is to us, we actually come here and pray to God as part of a very long chain of generations, going all the way back to Abraham and Sarah. We're in a great flow of time. And the same prayers that we pray today were prayed by generations, untold generations before us. And we hope and pray will be prayed by untold generations after us. And today we take our place in that long tradition. In the third prayer, we're going to be singing Ledor Vador at the end of the prayer. Cantor Breitzer will be leading us, and we'll be responsively singing Ledor Vador. So he's going to sing Ledor Vador. We're going to want you to sing back Ledor Vador. And what that means is from generation to generation. Today, as I said before, we're passing Torah to a new generation, and we remember where we come from and where we're going. And we're humble in the recognition that we're just one link, each of us, all of us, in that great long chain. We start by asking God to help us find words fitting of that place in which we stand. Page 242.
Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Adonai, 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 אתה אדוני אלוהינו ואלוהי אבותינו ואמותינו אלוהי אברהם אלוהי יצחק ואלוהי יעקב אלוהי שרה אלוהי רבקה אלוהי רחל ואלוהי לאה האל הגדול הגיבור והנורא אל עליון גומל חסדים טובים וקונה הכל וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה 246 אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיים את אימת רב להושיע מוריד הטל מכלכל חיים בחסד מחיים מתים ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישוע ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני בחיי המתים 248 לקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוך כל הארץ כבודו אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ ברוך כבוד אדוני מבקומו אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ברחמיו לעיני כל חי אני אדוני אלוהיכם אם לא אדוני לעולם אלוהי ציון לדור ודור הללויה לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ולנצח נצחים ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש בשבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש לעולם ועד לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך לדור ודור לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד גודלך ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. We continue silently through page 261 using the words of these pages, the words of our hearts. When we finished our personal prayers, we may be seated. page 250. You can feel a spirit of joy throughout this space this morning. So we're going to go with that. Shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, bekorei oneg Shabbat. Shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, bekorei oneg Shabbat. Mekadeshei shevi Shabbat, kulam yispehu v'yitang'u mitovecha Shabbat, yismehu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, bekorei oneg Shabbat, yismehu v'malechutecha, shomrei, shomrei, shomrei Shabbat, bekorei oneg Shabbat, ve'ashvi רצית בו וקידשתו שבת, חמדת ימים, אותו קראת שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, וקורא עונג שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, וקורא עונג שבת. You were so good at the call and response before. Let's try it again. Call and response. Ready? זכר למעשה בראשית. Oh, I fooled you. Once again. Oh, yes. Now try it this way. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, וקורא עונג שבת, ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, וקורא עונג, say עונג, וקורא עונג, say עונג, וקורא עונג שבת. Wow, we say Yasher Koach to Howard Karp. It's so nice to have you with us.
Yasher Koach, Howard. That was a great little moment of teaching right there at the very end, Kendra Breitzer, which is that when someone does something amazing in a synagogue, we actually don't applaud. We say Yasher Koach. Try that.
Yasher Koach.
Yeah, you're going to be using that a lot, so that's good. All right. Ooh, we got some good energy in here this morning. In a moment, we're going to turn to Seder Kriyat HaTorah, the service for the reading of Torah. The Torahs are going to come out of the ark. We're going to hear them. But first, we have some greetings. And maybe an announcement, I don't know, but greetings, just greetings from our president, John Horowitz.
Shabbat Shalom. It's amazing to see so many people here this morning. We've been back in person for a while, but I think this might be the most filled the sanctuary has been in a while, and I just want to say how great it is to welcome everybody. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I do want to welcome you all this morning, those of you here in person, as well as those of you who are joining us virtually. A special welcome to Noah and Noah's family and friends, especially who are all joining us this morning, and certainly a mazel tov to both of you on this special day. I also want to say mazel tov to the Gomori-Ruben family on Miriam's naming, which is going to come very soon. As always, I want to thank our clergy. Thank you, Rabbi Timoner. Thank you, Cantor Breitzer. Thank you, Rabbi Colin. I want to thank our executive director, Mark Flaxer, and his staff for all they do each and every day for us. I want to thank Karen Gerwin, who's supporting us in person. I want to thank Gabby Safransky, providing sound and support. I will second Cantor Breitzer. Howard, it's great to have you back. We've missed you for sure. I want to thank our greeters, Dan Becker and Jennifer White-Karp, for greeting everyone this morning as they entered the sanctuary. And finally, I do want to thank Jonathan and Debbie and Aaron and Brent for sponsoring this morning's Kiddush in honor of their kids' B'nai Mitzvah. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, John. All right, so we're ready to bring those Torahs out of the ark. So to do that, we have a whole lot of people who are going to help us open the ark. Here's who they are. Noah Rosen's brother and cousins, Jack Rosen and Phoebe and Zoe Berlin, and Noah Brent's friends from Crane Lake Camp. All right, you go Crane Lake Camp. We are fans here. Right, Kenner Breitzer?
Yeah, I'm going there this summer.
I know, you're going there this summer. That's right. All right, and we are inviting up Miller, Schwarzschild, Benjamin, Bagatelle, Jack Hellerman, Austin Miller, Sophia Rizoy, hope I got that right, Serena Levin, Rosa Adelsberg, Ezra Knox, Elias Katz, Alex Adwin, Connor Margolis, Zach Rosenstein, Milton Levitan. Okay, they're all gonna open the ark. Then, when Noah and Noah have the Torahs and they're ready to make their way around the room, the following people are gonna follow them. All of Noah Rosen's friends are gonna follow her, and Noah Brent's grandparents, Chicky Brent and Steve Massey, are gonna follow him. All right, and Rabbi Colin, why don't you come up and help me in this moment? There's a lot going on. Okay, I ask everyone to please rise. We're on page 362.
Ein kamocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein kema'asecha, malchutecha malchut kol olamim, u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed. Adonai oz le'amo yitein, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Av harachamim eitiv adirtzonecha et Zion, tivneh homot Yerushalayim, tivneh homot Yerushalayim. Levad batachnu, melech el ram v'nisa, Adon olamim. Page 364. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, Yerushalayim. 366. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shema.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo.
L'Adonai Itzi, Unerom Namah Shemo Yadam.
Echad Adonai Hagedula ve'Hagevula ve'Hatiferet ve'Hanetzach ve'Haod. בשמיים ובארץ, ככל בשמיים ובארץ, לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל ראש. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו. כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים, על שלושה דברים העולם עומד, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים, על התורה ועל העבודה ועל גמילות חסדים. הללויה, 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 hallelujah, hallelujah. Please be seated.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We are reading this morning from Parashat K'doshim. It is actually the very center of the Torah. If you were going to roll the Torah, well, we did. To the very center, it's there. That's where we are. And we are going to be reading from Leviticus chapter 19, starting on verse 1. And you have Torah commentaries in the pews, in addition to the Mishkan Tefillah that you've been working with. You've got another book there. And it says the Torah on the cover, and that's how you know. And you're going to look at page 798. 798 to follow along with the Torah reading. We're starting Leviticus chapter 19, verse 1, Parashat K'doshim. 798.
That's amazing that you're
Jack
looking for the right
always
page.
wants to
That's
follow
awesome.
along, be right where we are. Love it. He's the first to clap every time. It's awesome. Okay, page 798. And we're going to start by inviting up Avery Wenger, who is one of our teens here at CBE, and we love it when our teens come back after they've been a mitzvah and continue to chant Torah with us. So we're really happy you're here, Avery. And for that aliyah, I'm going to turn it over to Rabbi Colin.
Thank you. Mazel tov to Noah and Noah. It's a beautiful morning so far. And now we get to add to the holiness of this moment by adding ritual and life cycle moments to your simcha. And so it is my honor to call forward Miriam Flora Gomori-Ruben and to bring her parents with her, Liana and Brandon, to the first aliyah. She's the small one.
Yamdu l'aliyah laTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamivorach. Baruch Adonai hamvarach leolam vayed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Vaydaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el kol adat b'nei Yisrael, ve'amarta alehem kedoshim tiyu, ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohehem, ish imaho ve'aviv tira'u ve'et Shabbatotai tishmoru ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Well, let's try not to wake her. How lucky we are to add, right? This parsha is Parshat K'doshim, holiness. It's about holiness. Holiness is something that grows exponentially. Only when you add to it does it grow and grow and grow and grow. And so to be able to add a baby naming, the very first moment of your ritual Jewish life, to this incredible moment of this next ritual Jewish life that you're seeing, maybe one day, I know one day that's going to be you. So on this beautiful week of Parshat K'doshim, we're going to welcome this beautiful baby into the covenant. We're going to give her her Hebrew name. So the first thing we do is we welcome her into the covenant of her people. So I'm going to say a couple of words, and then it is the parent's sacred obligation to bring her into the covenant with these words.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu v'tzotav v'tzivanu l'hachnitzah bivritam shel Avraham Avinu v'Sarah imenu.
Amen. We say together, Amen. And not only is she brought into this beautiful covenant, but she has 4 grandparents here today, making a beautiful line of generations. And what we just said was, blessed are you, Adonai, source of life, who makes us holy with your commandments and commands us to welcome this child into the covenant of Abraham and Sarah. Kashem shenichnasa labrit ken tikanes l'Torah u'lechupa u'ma'asim tovim, which means just as you have been welcomed into the covenant this morning, so may you be welcomed into a life of Torah study, and may you find that your heart is open to love others, that you could be loved yourself, and may you have a life of good deeds. We say together, Amen. Amen. She's very well behaved. I'm going to give you your Hebrew name now, sweet one. Are you ready? Okay. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu kayem et hayalda hazot la'aviha ul'ima vayikaresh shema b'Yisrael Miriam Ruth bat Leah ve'Brandon zot ha'ketana gedola tehiyah. Our God and God of our ancestors, sustain this child. Let her be called among the people Israel, Miriam Ruth bat Leah ve'Brandon, though she is now small. Great may she become. And now we will learn just a little bit about why her name is Miriam Ruth.
Give me one moment. I left the speech at the...
We can all gaze at her lovingly for this time. Actually, you know, the folks online can't see her. You might go to the side and just show her little punam. Oh.
Good morning, everyone. It's such a joy to be here with you to welcome our daughter into our community. It's Jewish custom to name children after relatives who have passed away, and we wanted to give our child a name that honors her ancestors for several reasons. First, we wanted to root her in a sense of her unique history. We wanted to connect her to relatives who came before her, to tether her to a long line of beloved people, and to situate her within a context of the past as she lives in the present and she pursues her future. We also wanted to bolster our daughter's life with the strength of her ancestors. We imagine that her namesakes in particular are cheering for her and supporting her along her journey, that they're passing their gifts to her, and she will carry those gifts within her and use them as raw materials that she transforms into something that's all her own.
Accordingly, her first name is Miriam. Miriam is my mother's name. She was a wellspring of love for my father, and thus for me. I'm from an interfaith family, and as a young person, I struggled to make sense of what it meant to be half Jewish. But as a boy, I distinctly remember holding with me, like a miniature compass in my pocket, the fact that my grandmother's name was Miriam, and that she had a Jewish name, and that she was part of me. Moreover, as Miriam's sister Cynthia, who passed away just last month at 96 years old, but thankfully got to meet baby Miriam, was fond of reminding us, my grandmother Miriam was something of a rebel. Indeed, Cynthia often remarked, Miriam chose to attend art school. Well, the biblical prophetess Miriam, of course, was something of a rebel herself. Has the Lord spoken only through Moses? Has he not also spoken through me, she asked, challenging the patriarchal assumption that Moses was somehow a more natural conduit to the divine? And it is my hope that our Miriam will carry on this liberated, empowered spirit, attend art school if that is her wish, and remind anyone that says otherwise of her absolutely equal claim to authority.
Next is her English middle name, Flora, and Flora is after her great-great-grandmother. Flora lived in Budapest, Hungary, and she came from a big family where she was the youngest of 7 children. Flora's Budapest was steeped in arts and culture and cosmopolitanism. I imagine that gifts from this lineage might be a love for learning different languages, a gravitation towards culturally vibrant cities, just like this one, and a pensive intellect. A sadness for Flora was that her family was split up by war, so she never met her grandchild, my father. I like to imagine that we can help heal this sadness intergenerationally by bringing Flora here with us through her namesake and by taking full advantage of the fact that Miri has 4 grandparents that she can spend tons of time with today. Next, we give her her Hebrew names, Miriam Ruth. With the Hebrew name Miriam, we bring in another ancestor, Miri's great-great-grandmother, Mariana, whose Hebrew name was also Miriam, and her son, my grandfather, Rudy. Both of these ancestors were from a small village in Germany where they were observant Jews. Mariana was a loving mother and homemaker, known for her needlepoint skills and her quiet and kind disposition. My grandpa Rudy, too, was quiet and kind, a lover of classical music. I imagine that this lineage is the keepers of tradition, transmitters of the value of a warm and loving home.
Finally, we give her her own name, Miri, or Meerkat for short. She has her own name because she is her own baby who will become her own person. As Lebanese poet Khalil Gibran writes of children in his text, The Prophet, though children are with us, yet they belong not to us. Indeed, to keep with Gibran, Leanna and me, Grandma Miriam, Grandma Flora, Grandma Mariana, Grandpa Rudy, and the prophetess Miriam are but the bows from which baby Miri as a living arrow is sent forth.
Thank you so much. I'm going to just invite everybody, stay right here. You look like such a rebel. Just going to ask everybody to think of one blessing word and write one blessing word and just to call it out, a blessing you want for this sweet baby on the count of 3. 1, 2, and 3. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. May God bless you and keep you safe. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka. May God's light shine upon you and treat you with grace. Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. May God's eyes lift to you, and may God give you the most important gift of all, the gift of peace. Amen.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה.
Mazel tov. All right, now we're going to invite Noah Rosen up here to chant some Torah. And we are going to have members of her family come for the Aliyah, her parents and her grandparents first. Debbie and Jonathan Rosen, and Jonah and Ed Roth, and Carrie and Joel Rosen.
And Noah Rosen is continuing from verse 8, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 8.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamorah. Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'el. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Ve'ochelav avono yisa. Ki et kodesh Adonai chilel v'nichreta hanefesh hahi me'amecha uvkutrechem et ketzir artechem lo techaleh pe'atzadecha liktor ve'leket ketzircha lo tilaket v'charmecha lo te'olel uferet karmecha lo tilaket le'ani v'lager ta'azov otam ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher natan lanu Torah emet. V'chayei olam nota b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
All right, now we're going to invite Noah's aunts, uncles, and cousins, Jeff Roth and Holly Wilson, Isaac and Abby Roth, Sarah Rosen, Jeremy Max, and Zoe Kukafka, Lori and Jay Tompkins.
Yamdu hakrovim Shabbat mitzvah l'aliyah Torah. Noah's continuing from verse 11, chapter 19, verse 11.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. Lo tignotu v'lo techachashu v'lo teshakeru ish ba'amito v'lo tishavu v'shmi lashaker v'chilata et shem Elohecha ani Adonai lo ta'ashok et re'acha v'lo tigzol lo talin he'ulat tzachir itzacha ad bocher lo techalel cheresh v'lifnei iver lo titen mikshol ve'arei tamei Elohecha ani Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Shikoach.
I invite you all to come to Noah's left here. And stay with us as we call her to Torah as a bat mitzvah by her Hebrew name, which is not Noah. Listen carefully and you'll hear what her Hebrew name is. And after I chant it, she'll touch the scroll with her talit and give it a kiss before saying the first blessing. Ta'amod, 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 abechura bat mitzvah Rivka, bat varo Daniel aliyah la Torah, chizki veimtzi.
Baruch hu et Adonai Hamvorah. Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Lo ta'asu avel b'mishpat. Lo tisaf v'neital. Velo tedar pene gadol, vetzedek tishpot amitecha. Lo tilech rachil be'amecha, lo ta'amod al damrecha, ani Adonai. Lo tisna et techicha b'yovavecha, hocheach tochiach et amitecha, velo tisa alav chet. Lo tikom velo titor et b'nei amecha, ve'ahavta l're'acha kamocha, ani Adonai. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And we say Yasher Koach. So while the Torah is in our midst, we pause and draw on its strength and on its light. The Torah for us, we call it a tree of life. And so we think about people we know who are reaching for life, are reaching for light, are in need of healing. We turn to page 371 in our prayer books, where we find Mishaberach. We're going to sing the prayer together, and then I'm going to invite you to call out names of people you're thinking about who need healing. And we'll fold all those names into the second half of our prayer.
The source of strength, who bless the ones before us. Help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
We pray for the people we name now. Just call out names in the section. We pray together.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Next up, we have Fiona Overcamp chanting Torah, a second teen in our community post B'nai Mitzvah. And we get to invite up, there are many fifth grade families in the room this morning because today, after services, fifth graders are going to find their place in the Torah. We're going to unroll the whole Torah, and they're going to find their spot in the Torah where they're going to be chanting a couple years from now. And so they're here for that. And I want to invite all the fifth grade families to come up for this aliyah. And we'll have the parents chant the blessing, because the kids, you're going to save your chanting of the blessing till the day you become B'nai Mitzvah.
Yamdu kosh potot bakita hey shelanu l'aliyah Torah. Fiona is continuing from verse 26, Leviticus chapter 19, verse 26 on page 802, Jack. Page 802 of the Torah commentary. Come on all the way around the lectern. You can use this whole area here, all the way around. Come as close as you feel comfortable. If you've never seen the Torah up close, this is a great opportunity to see it up close. Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Amen. Lo tachlu al hadam, lo tenachashu, velo te'onenu. Lo takifu pe'at roshem, velo tashit et pe'at ekaneha, be'serev la'nefesh. Lo titanu b'sarhem, uv'heto v'kaka, lo titanu bahem, ani Adonai.
Mishaberach Avotenu Vimotenu, may the one who blessed our ancestors bless each of you, that on this day you get inspired with Torah when you receive your Chumash and you find your very own place in the Torah. May you always feel that you belong in this Torah and it belongs in you. And we say together, Yasher Koach.
Yasher Koach, please have a seat.
Yasher Koach Fiona. Right. And now Noah Brent is going to come forward to chant Torah, and we're going to invite his parents, Aaron and Andrew, to come for this aliyah.
Yamod, Yamadu, Orim Shavar HaMitzvah L'Aliyah LaTorah. Before we make the blessing, we want to make sure that Noah has his spot. Come close.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach.
Baruch Adonai Mevorach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato, Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Al techalel etzbecha lehasnota velo tiznei haaretz umala haaretz zima et shabtotai tishmaru umikdashi tirau ani Adonai. Al tifnu el ha'ovot ve'el ha'idonim al tivakshu letoma vahem ani Adonai Elohechem.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Come around to this side. Yep, to Noah's left. Come stay right here as we're about to call him to Torah as a bar mitzvah by his Hebrew name, which also is not Noah. Listen carefully. Ya'amod, Ya'amod, Ya'amod. Abachur bar mitzvah Yosef. Ben Shlomi v'Didya l'Aliyah LaTorah chazak ve'amad.
Baruch et Adonai hamvorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher ba'achar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Mipnei seva takum vehadarta pnei zakin veyareta me Elohecha ani Adonai. V'chiyagur itcha ger be'artzechem lo tonu oto ke'ezrach mikem yihye lachem hager hagar itchem ve'afta lo kamocha ki gerim he'item be'eretz Mitzrayim ani Adonai Elohechem. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chei olam neta betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
We say Yasher Koach.
Yasher Koach.
Right.
This is a clapping community this morning.
Sometimes, that's what you got. Maybe Jonathan Spear? All right. We are ready to lift and dress our Torah. We're going to invite several people to dress the Torah. We're going to invite Noah Rosen's aunt, Sarah Rosen, and Noah Brent's sister, aunt, and uncles, Molly Brent, Brooke and Josh Fishman, and Brett Massey. And we ask everyone to please rise.
Page 370. התורה אשר שם משה לפני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. Get ready to clap some more. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Torah, 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 ציווה לנו משה. Please be seated.
All right, so on Shabbat morning, here's what happens. We read from the Torah, our original sacred text, and then we read from our prophets. We read the Haftarah portion, and this week we are reading from the prophet Amos, chapter 9, verse 10. That's where it starts. It's on page 814, 814, if you're following along in the Torah commentary. Noah and Noah are going to come up and chant the opening blessing. and then they're going to chant from Amos. They're going to come up now. They're going to walk forward now. And they're going to chant the opening blessing, then from the prophet Amos, and then from the closing, and then they're going to chant the closing blessing. And what we're doing is we're watching what happens with Torah. Because Torah, and this is actually going to come up later when we're teaching about this parsha, Torah is something that evolves. It moves through time, and it gets applied by different people to their moment in different ways. And we're going to see that happen with the prophet Amos. One thing interesting if you're looking in the Torah commentary is try to figure out why was this Haftarah portion selected to be with this Torah portion? What do you see there that shows a connection?
And what's that rustling sound I hear?
Thank you, yes. So you have received candies. And those are not for eating quite yet. They are for holding so gently that you don't hear them. And then they are for lobbing, like the shape is like this, for a gentle shower of sweetness upon our B'nai Mitzvah when they finish chanting the second blessing after the Haftarah. So right now we're going to be like so still with them. Did you get some? Okay, so you don't have any? Oh, you did. Okay, good. Perfect. That's beautiful modeling. Thank you. And then later you're going to toss them. You might be very, very good at throwing hard, but that's not what this is.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nvi'im tovim beratza v'divrehem hane'emarim be'emet Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah, u'Moshe avdo, u'Yisrael amo, u'b'nvi'ei ha'emet b'seder.
B'cherev yamutu kol hatayei ami haomerim lo tagish v'takdim ba'adenu hara'a bayom hahu akim et sukat David hanafelet v'gadarti et pirtzehen v'harisotav akim Uvenitiha kimeolam lema'an Yeshu et she'erit Edom v'chol hagoyim asher nikra shemi alahem ne'um Adonai osezot.
Hine yamim ba'im ne'um Adonai v'nigash horesh v'chotzer v'dorech anavim v'moshech hazara v'hitifu heharim asis v'chol hageva'ot titmogagna v'shavti et shevut ami Yisrael uvanu arim neshavot ve'akshavu ve'nateu cheramim ve'shavtu et einam ve'asu ganot ve'acheru et prihem unetatim alai matam ve'lo yinatashu od me'al matam asher natati lahem amar Adonai Elohecha Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sur kol halomim tzadik bechol hadorot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh ha'medaber u'mekayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al ha'torah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al ha'nevi'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'limenucha lechavod u'tifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim la Umevarachim ota, Yitbarashim Habefi Kol Chai, Tamid Leolam Va'ed, Baruch Ata Adonai,
Baruch Shema.
Nekadesh Hashem.
Amen. Seman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov, seman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov, seman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov. Yehinanu, yehinanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yehinanu, yehinanu, ulecho Yisrael. Yisrael, Yehelanu, Yehelanu, Ulecho Yisrael. Seman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov, seman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov, seman tov, mazel tov, mazel tov, seman tov, Yehelanu. Wow, that was a massive effort.
There was a lot of throwing.
If only we could, clean up the world with such gusto.
I love that, Cantor Breitzer. I love that.
So with the taste of something sweet in your hand or in your lips, and if you're a Yachat student, it's getting to be that time to continue your sweet learning. And this morning, if you are in 5th grade, we recognize there are a lot of 5th grade families that normally come on Monday and Wednesday. You're welcome to stay right here. And if you normally come on Tuesday and Shabbat, and you're always here on Shabbat morning, you are also welcome to stay right here if you want to learn from Noah and Noah what this Torah portion is all about. Or if you're in 5th grade and you come on Shabbat and you'd like to learn some Hebrew, go find your teacher at the main doors at this time, if that's you. Also, if you are in 6th grade, if you're a 6th grade Yachat student, please find your teacher at the main door. And if you are in 4th grade in Yachad, please find your teacher at the side door. And not to be forgotten, if you are in 3rd grade, please find your teacher at the side door. Have a beautiful morning of learning. We know it's raining outside. We know that people are taking their time. Please do so quietly as we continue.
So I mentioned before that on Shabbat morning, we hear the words of Torah directly. And then we hear the words of the prophets applying Torah to their moment. And then we hear the words of our darshanim, the people who, in our own time, this morning, are interpreting Torah for us. They looked inside the Torah, they found something that spoke to them or that they thought was problematic. We'll see there's an example of each of those. And then they wrestle with it, they dig, and they try to tell us what they think we most need to hear this week from our Torah. So Noah and Noah are becoming our teachers this morning. Up until today, they've been our students. And today, as they become B'nai Mitzvah, they become our teachers. And we, by listening, are telling them that we think they have something important to tell us. Their voice counts in a different kind of way among our people. They are teachers of Torah, teachers among the people of Israel.
My Torah portion is Leviticus chapter 19, otherwise known as the Holiness Codes. These were ancient Jewish laws. There are many of them, but 2 stick out to me. Don't stand by the shedding of your fellow's blood, which can be interpreted more as don't be indifferent to another's predicament, and don't pervert justice. Studying this portion and thinking about these 2 rules made me think about Trayvon Martin. He was a teenager at the age of 17. He was shot and killed because a guy named George Zimmerman thought he looked suspicious. The reality was he was walking home from the deli with Skittles and iced tea while visiting his dad in Stanford, Florida. Unfortunately, Trayvon's story is not unique. Every year in this country, Black and Latino men and women are subjected to violence, harassment, or even killed like Trayvon Martin. But most of the time, our legal system does nothing. Trayvon Martin's story connects to my parsha. Don't pervert justice and don't be indifferent to another's predicament. The Trayvon Martin case shows that the court system is biased towards white people and does not value the lives of Black people equally. What does the Torah mean when it says don't pervert justice and when it says don't be indifferent to another's predicament? Don't pervert justice is telling judges not to be biased towards one side. Sforno, a 16th century Italian rabbi, stated, "Judges are charged with dispensing fair judgment." Sforno thinks this sentence means a warning not to relate sternly to one person while being lenient towards his opponent. Do not allow one person to sit while his opponent is required to remain standing. In other words, judges are required to treat both sides equally. It shouldn't matter who's fighting the case. If they're stern with one, they should be stern with the other. If they make one person stand, they should make them both stand. Rashi, an 11th century French rabbi, interpreted do not pervert justice to mean a judge should not show favoritism to either the rich or the poor on the basis of their socioeconomic status. In other words, a judge shouldn't show favoritism based on how much money someone has. People take your background, how much money you have, where you live, etc., and judge you. Judges in our system don't meet Sforno or Rashi's standards. In our legal system, Black people are sentenced to a longer time in jail than white people for the same crimes. Today, because of white supremacy, our justice system is extremely biased. In fact, according to sentencingproject.org, Black Americans are sentenced to state prisons across the country at nearly 5 times the rate of whites. Latinx people are 1.3 times as likely to be sentenced to prisons than whites. If judges and law enforcement were listening to my parsha, this wouldn't be happening, because people would be fair towards each side. They wouldn't look at who you are, they wouldn't look at what you look like. They would look at what happened. In addition to the law, do not pervert justice, I also wanted to introduce another law for my parsha. Don't be indifferent to another's predicament. Elie Wiesel, a Holocaust survivor, once said, "I believe that a person who is indifferent to the suffering of others is complicit in the crime, and that I cannot allow at least for myself. The opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference." In other words, he is saying that the most important thing you can do is care. This connects to our lives because people aren't caring for those lives who go to jail for no reason, those lives who are harmed for no reason. And that is the worst thing you can do. You've got to step up and do something. People my age are standing up to fight racism and make the world more fair. We're also working in our neighborhoods to care for people in need. That is why, for my Mitzvah project, I will be sending food to the organization CHIPS. CHIPS provides food for more than 150 hungry New Yorkers daily, right here in our neighborhood. They provide pre- and postnatal care to expecting and single mothers. They also give access to free food and housing. CHIPS is caring for those in need, which is exactly what the law, don't be indifferent to another's predicament, calls for, to care. And that is exactly what I and so many other people should do and can do to make the world better. Care. It is my hope that my generation won't be indifferent and won't pervert justice. We will care and treat one another equally. Shabbat Shalom.
Yesher Koach Noah. It is also my hope that your generation will not pervert justice and will care. I get to respond to you soon about that. Now we get to hear from Noah Brent.
In my parsha, God has given the Jews a set of laws that they're going to use when they get to Israel. Some of them include you can't wear clothes made of a mixture of wool and linen. Some are that you must be fair in business and not lie when you make trades. But I think that the most interesting one, and the one that we should be looking at the most today, is the punishments that God gave people for being gay. How do we handle this when we look at the Torah today? Because we can't be discriminatory against gay people, but the Torah is a very sacred thing. Rabbinical student Emily Volz thinks that we should continue to say this parsha as it is. Volt says, avoidance never solves problems, but merely transfers them to a later date. We should not avoid this part of our history and our heritage. Instead, she suggests that we be aware of it, but accept that it is in the Torah. Emily's words remind me of my own struggles with procrastination. I am personally told day after day not to procrastinate by parents, teachers, and just about anyone I know. If we avoided saying this problematic verse, it would be like procrastinating because we would just be putting the hard conversation off to a future time instead of dealing with it right now. On the other hand, the teachings from Tractate Sotah in the Talmud, which was written in the 5th century, suggest that maybe we should skip this verse altogether, because hearing it might embarrass LGBTQ people, and embarrassing people is really bad. In fact, Tractate Sotah says that people would prefer physical pain to humiliation, and that humiliating someone is similar to spilling their blood, because when they blush, they turn red. I think that these ideas are not exactly accurate, but really try to show the impact of humiliation to physical pain. We are a bit more familiar with physical pain than emotional pain. As a kid, I know I was taught not to hit others before I was taught not to say harmful things. I think that we can learn many lessons from this parsha. Moving forward, I think we should take this parsha a bit more seriously than the others, as it could offend many people. In the future, we should continue to read this part of the Torah, but also make it clear that these are outdated ideas, and we would never mean to discriminate against others. This parsha is an important thing, especially today. We should use this piece of Torah as an example of old, outdated ideas and to make sure that we take in everyone's perspective in the future. Shabbat Shalom.
Yasher koach, Noah. Yasher koach. I have a lot to say. Won't be very long, but there's a lot in there. Okay. So first of all, Noah Rosen. You taught us about 2 verses from this week's parasha. Do not pervert justice, and do not stand idly by the shedding of your fellow's blood. In other words, do not be indifferent to the suffering or predicament of another. With the story of Trayvon Martin, I still honestly think of him pretty much every time I put on a hoodie or eat Skittles. You remind us that white supremacy shapes the criminal legal system in this country, utterly perverting it and making it not actually a system of justice. A few weeks ago, I traveled to the South with our 9th and 10th graders. And on that trip, we went to the Equal Justice Initiative's Legacy Museum, which shows graphically and in detail how slavery transformed into convict leasing and then into mass incarceration, how slave patrols transformed into the Ku Klux Klan and then lynchings, which continued into state-sanctioned violence and terror against Black people in America today, including the death of Trayvon Martin, and among so many others. When you see the history all laid out, and I could not recommend a visit to Montgomery, Alabama to see this museum more. When you see the history all laid out, it is devastating and it is irrefutable that what we witness now is the continued legacy of slavery. Noah Brent, you talked about the prohibition against homosexuality that appears in this week's Torah portion, a verse that has been used as a weapon against people like me, lesbian, gay, bisexual, and queer people. I agree with you that the solution to this verse cannot be to ignore it or hide it or avoid it. It has to be to directly face it, to confront it every time we come across it in a way that counteracts the shame that centuries of hate and stigma have imposed upon us. Because it's not just an anachronism, a long refuted bias, but it continues to be operative today. It continues to shame children and people of all ages today. It continues to threaten us. Your words, both of yours, are echoing through this week in America, when we learned that the majority of the Supreme Court of the United States is planning to overturn the protection of a woman's right to choose to end her pregnancy in specific timeframes and conditions. Noah Rosen, you spoke of the perversion of justice. What happens when we no longer trust that the justice system, even the highest court in the land, can be at all fair. When we all understand that it is merely a pawn in a struggle for power, what happens? You taught us, do not stand idly by the blood of your fellow. Do not remain indifferent to the suffering of others. In her Confession to the Women We've Failed, Rabbi Zoe Klein-Miles writes about standing idly by the blood of our fellow human beings. These are excerpts. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha. For the sin we have sinned against you. The woman who has high blood pressure, whose doctors say her pregnancy may kill her. The woman who doesn't know for months that she is pregnant because of an irregular period. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha. For the sin we have sinned against you. The woman suffering an ectopic pregnancy who is called murderer on her way to her appointment. The woman who is told there is no heartbeat and is called murderer on her way to the clinic. The woman who miscarries and is criminalized because she cannot prove it was natural. The parent who is told that if born, their baby will live in excruciating pain and won't survive past infancy. The girl who is ostracized, shamed, criminalized, while he who impregnates her is free. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha. For the sin we have sinned against you. The family who doesn't have health insurance and barely survives paycheck to paycheck. The woman living in a rural, remote town who cannot afford the transportation, hotel, and time off for a procedure. The partner who loses their job for taking the days needed to travel over state lines for their spouse's care. The woman of color who faces racial and ethnic disparity in medicine and less access to quality contraceptive services. The children who are not taught sex education and are not given access to birth control. The families who are not given paid parental leave or affordable childcare. The woman who religiously took birth control to prevent pregnancy, but the birth control failed. Al chet shechatanu lefanecha. For the sin we have sinned against you. Noah Brent, you warned us this morning that while we must read the verse that prohibits homosexuality, we must do so in a way that makes clear that we no longer believe in its validity. The contrast between your Devar Torah and Noah Rosen's Devar Torah demonstrates that everyone picks and chooses which verses from Scripture they will emphasize, follow, teach, and live by, and which they will not. Anyone who tells you differently is not telling the truth. A significant percentage of this country's population would like the law of the land to reflect the Torah verse that you reject, Noah Brent. And a significant percentage of the population of our country agree with you, Noah Rosen, that we have work to do to stop the perversion of justice, to make our justice system just. Some people focus on the verse you focused on, Noah Brent. Some people focus on the verse you focused on, Noah Rosen. Anyone who tells you that they follow all of the Bible or all of the Torah is not telling you the truth. Everyone chooses which verses they think most represent God's teaching or reflect the truth or show what justice looks like. This week I came across a quote by a Christian pastor named Dave Barnhart about the selective reading of the Bible as it relates to abortion. Here's what he wrote. The unborn are a convenient group to advocate for. They are morally uncomplicated. Unlike the incarcerated, addicted, or chronically poor, they don't resent your condescension. Unlike widows, a group of people the Bible specifically tells us to advocate for, fetuses don't ask you to question patriarchy. Unlike orphans, another protected group in the Bible, fetuses don't need money, education, or childcare. And when they are born, you can forget about them because they cease to be unborn. It's as if when they're born, they have died to you. You can love the unborn and advocate for them without substantially challenging your own wealth, power, or privilege, without reimagining social structures, apologizing, or making reparations to anyone. They are, in short, the perfect ones to prioritize if you want to claim you love Jesus, but actually dislike people who breathe. Prisoners Immigrants, the sick, the poor, widows, orphans, all the groups that are specifically mentioned in the Bible and the Torah, they all get sacrificed for the unborn. It's important for everyone in this sanctuary to know that in Judaism, a woman's life supersedes the life of the fetus. The Mishnah and the Talmud declare that a pregnancy must be aborted if a woman's life is at risk, and tell us that we do not treat the life of a fetus as equivalent to the life of the mother until it takes its first breath after birth. An 18th century rabbinic ruling declared that abortion was permitted in cases where pregnancy caused significant emotional distress to the mother. It is therefore a violation of the religious liberty of Jewish people to ban abortion. This week's parashah begins with the words, Kedoshim tihiyu ki kadosh ani Adonai Elohechem. Strive to be holy, for I, Adonai your God, am holy. Me'or Einayim, the Hasidic sage, says, might you think it means like me? Might you think you are divine like God? You look at yourself and see how learned you are. You might think you are God. God forbid, something you surely are not. The sages, he says, were astonished that anyone could think that we are the wise ones, forgetting that all is Adonai. Humility. The reason Moses attained his heights of prophecy, our tradition teaches, was because of his humility. We strive for holiness, but only God is truly holy. We strive to create justice in our world, but only God can truly judge. None of us knows the inner life of another. None of us is able to determine whether a pregnant woman should remain pregnant, except for the woman herself. We are not God. Noah Rosen, you reminded us that Elie Wiesel said, a person who is indifferent to the suffering of others is complicit in the crime. Rashi said that in order to not stand by the blood of our fellow, we must do whatever we can to help them, as Rabbi Colin taught us last night. The fight for reproductive freedom and justice is now. On May 17th, in 10 days, CBE is taking a bus to Washington for the Jewish Rally for Abortion Justice. We are leaving very early that morning and returning that same day. And I am going, and Rabbi Colin is going, and we still have some seats on that bus. Teens, adults, you are invited. For the mother who is imprisoned for acquiring misoprostol to end her teen daughter's traumatic pregnancy. For the mother who is imprisoned for having an abortion in order to better feed and care for her children. For the woman who is imprisoned for terminating a pregnancy that was not conceived in love. For the daughter who suffers long-term agony from terminating her pregnancy at the hands of untrained individuals in unhygienic environments. For the daughter who doesn't have any reason to trust lawmakers or adults and suffers excruciating, unnecessary death. For the sin we have sinned against you. For all of our failures to protect you, our daughters, our mothers, our partners, our friends. Don't forgive us. Don't pardon us. Don't grant us atonement. We must not be indifferent until there is justice. Amen. I now have the privilege of giving Noah Brent and Noah Rosen blessings at the Ark as we return the Torah. I invite you to please rise.
374. Noah Brent and Noah Rosen, please accompany Rabbi Timoner. Al tazovu etz haim hi amachaziki Shalom, Ashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadesh Yameinu Kekedem. Continue on page 586 at the bottom. Aleinu l'shabeach. Aleinu l'shabeach l'Adon hakol, לתת גאולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. 589 Adonai Eloheinu כן נקווה לך, כן נקווה לך, כן נקווה לך, אדוני אלוהינו. לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך, ותקן עולם. לראות מהרה בתפארת עוזך, במלכות שדי, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד ושמו Please be seated.
We always conclude our time together by calling close the memories of our loved ones whom we've lost. And on this special day in their families, Noah Rosen's family is remembering her great-grandparents, Lionel and Estelle Kay, Samuel and Viola Rosen, Stuart and Dorothy Edelman, Lou and Sylvia Roth, Blanche and Abe Bressler. And Noah Brent's family are remembering his grandfather, George Brent, his great-aunt, Giselle Klein, and his great-grandparents, Carol and John Green, Art Massey, Rosen, Mario Bucco, Bess Ensign Fishman, and Lily Klein. If this is Shiva for you, if you're in the first week since the death of someone you love, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. If this is Shloshim for you, the first 30 days since the death of someone you love, I invite you to rise and tell us who you remember, who you're remembering. If this is Shana for you, please. If you're in the first year since the death of someone you love, I invite you to rise and tell us who you're remembering. And you can remain standing. We're going to invite those who are observing a yard site to rise and tell us who they're remembering.
My Nana Roz Woodcoff.
And we all rise in company with the mourners in our midst. As we remember these recent losses in our congregational community. Floyd Matos, father of Peggy Lebenson, father-in-law of Richard Lebenson, and grandfather of Nicole and Danielle. Edith Brenner, mother of Amy Brenner, mother-in-law of Scott Zucker, and grandmother of Nathaniel and Elia. William Greenbaum, father of Anna Solomon, father-in-law of Michael Berger, and grandfather of Sylvia and Samuel. And these yard sites, Carol Baumgarten, Silas Besthoff, Mildred Cohen, Gail Cohen Edelman, Lucy Cooper, Leonard Diamond, Samuel Ice, Edward Elcott, Celia Ezrol, Eugene Falk, Warren Foster, Morris Fox, Yetta Ginsburg, Alfred Glassheim, Leah Gloiberman, Gussie Greenberg, Florence Harris, Jacob Himmelreich, Lillian Hole, Robert Hutton, Ralph Julius Sr., Phyllis Karen, Esther Katz, Solomon Kaufman, Hattie Keller, Alexander Klupt, Max Lechner, Belle Lesher, Lorraine Levitt, Arthur Levitt, Fanny Levy, Fanny Lifschutz, Helen Ludwig, Audrey McDonald, Jacob Mann, Abraham Melzer, Hardy Mintzer, Lena Nachman, Charlotte Ney, Eugene Ney, Dora Pletman, Henry Reinhard, Samuel Reinhard, Rose Roth, Lorraine Sandler, Bernard Schmidt, Abraham Schuster, Harold Silberman, Aaron Sokol, Benjamin Spitzer, Doris Stahl, Ray May Stein Tucker, Aaron Steindam, Gary Tepper, Thomas Van Meter, Sarah Weil, David Werner, Gustav Winter, Rosalind Witkoff. Putting them all together, we say Zichronam Livracha, may their memories be an everlasting blessing. As we turn to the words of the Mourner's Kaddish, found on page 598. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei l'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agalau v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lalmei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shmei v'kudesha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush bechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the high heavens make peace for all who mourn, and we say together, amen.
Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru amen. Oseh shalom, oseh shalom b'mromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu Amen. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. La 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 la. Ya la 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 la. Oh, say shalom bimromah. Uyase shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel ve'imru Amen. Yalalai, just your voices, go. La-la-la-la-la. La-la-la. Louder. Oh, ya la 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 la, ay 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 ay, ya la 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 la, la 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 la, ve'imru, amen, ve'imru, amen.
Mazel tov to Noah Brent and to Noah Rosen and to your families and friends. We're going to have Kiddush over here. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.